So, Tim, I've known you for over 20 years, and I've known other Navy SEALs and I've known other high speed operators, but I have no idea, or I had no idea, what PJs did until you and I started talking. So, can you talk about what the PJ's main focus is? What are they supposed to be doing in the field, and how do they differ from, say, a Delta Force or a Navy SEAL?
Sure. So, Air Force Special Operations, which PJs are a part of, their pararescuemen, or PJs as we are called, are now split into two different main areas of emphasis. One is combat rescue, and the other one is special operations, which involves combat rescue, but also involves dealing and interfacing with other special operations teams, Navy SEALs, SF, Marine, special operations. And the PJs, our job is historically was to rescue downed aircrew or other military members from denied areas, basically behind enemy lines. And in conjunction with that, in peacetime, it's doing SAR, search and rescue, in any conditions or anywhere, anytime. That might be anything from doing a rescue mission on Denali, Mount McKinley, as some people know it, in Alaska, or where in our area of operations, where in the team that I was in out of Portland, it would be, you never know if in a moment's notice you might be called to do a rescue on Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, and any of the other large peaks, or 500 miles out to sea, jumping into a ship, or rappelling down to a ship, or doing a swiftwater rescue in one of the rivers, or high angle rescue, cliff rescue on the Columbia Gorge, or
So I gotta imagine it's so diverse, the stuff that you have to know, whether you gotta be proficient in swimming, you gotta be proficient in mountain climbing, you gotta be proficient in going down whitewater rafting. You're just constantly doing training?
Yes. It's the biggest fear, I think, for any PJ is to be called on a mission and to not be up for the task. You have to be able to, I know when I was in that we were told that every career field has officially listed job tasks. And I remember we were told that pararescue had more job tasks than anybody else in the military. So it's things that we were required to know, because we're required to be able to parachute, halo, high altitude, low altitude, high altitude, high opening, which means jumping out from 20,000, 30,000 feet and then opening your chute at altitude and going in, or halo, which is jumping from high altitude, free falling down, and then you're opening your chute and accurately hitting a target. To our two different static line chutes, which we had two different types depending on. And the thing where pararescue is a little different than other special operations is our expertise in being able to, for instance, jump into very small or non-existent drop zones. So having to be able to jump both jump master, which means determining where to go out of the plane from, and being able to jump into mountainous terrain, very limited drop zones, or be able to jump into trees, into water. And in addition, with the space shuttle rescue that we were part of, both originally mode 7, which was when we were on standby in case the space shuttle went off and the runway on landing, and like Cape Canaveral, there's large ditches, so we'd go in and we'd have to be trained, and with all the toxic chemicals and fuel and everything, we would have to be in full gear, protective, full self-contained breathing apparatus, and of course in a 95, 100 degree, be able to get to them, access the space shuttle, get the astronauts up and out all within 20 minutes. So doing that, and then we transitioned to what was also jumping in case the space shuttle went down anywhere in the world, we would jump in the ocean. To not belabor, for the space shuttle, we were trained to throw Zodiac. It would be folded, the Zodiac, in a package with a submersible motor, with fuel, with our medical equipment. That would get parachuted out. We would jump after it. It would land in the water. We would land close by, go undo the package, inflate the Zodiac, and then start the motor, dewater the motor, start it, and then go pick up the astronauts and then get them on board, treat them if they needed, and then head towards whatever the nearest care was.
It's just crazy the amount of stuff that you had to be an expertise in. And let me ask you this, what is the main difference? I mean, besides the fact that you have to have an expertise in so many different fields, I'm assuming you also have to have an expertise in some sort of medical background, right?
Yeah, we were medics, paramedics plus, because most paramedics, civilian paramedics, really only have to treat a patient for maybe an hour at the most for definitive care. Whereas we had to do that, but we also had to be able to treat patients for 3 days, because there would be situations in rescues where we wouldn't be able to get them to definitive care. So we also had to learn more long care, medical, life-saving medical techniques and things and procedures, in addition to what most standard paramedics, civilian paramedics do. And also that most of the time, we did not have an ambulance or unlimited resources. So when you're going in on almost every mission, weight and cube, what we call weight and cube, which means how much a thing weighs and how big it takes, is very limited. So you have to choose very carefully what you can take, and you're very limited. So to be able to operate with limited equipment and limited resources is something that you have to be trained in and be very flexible in that.
And I'm assuming above and beyond everything you're talking about, you also have to have combat training. You got to have firearms training.
Yes, and that is as combat, because all of these things that I'm talking about also could be in a combat situation or a non-combat situation. And so on top of that, yes, and you have to be trained in entries, in patrolling, which we all were, and of course combat arms, which is a very major portion, and calling in close air support and all that.
Yeah.
So.